Hey everybody, welcome to Utah Stories. This is the first show of 2023 and I'm happy to have you with me. My name is Richard Markosian. I'm your host. And if you're new to Utah Stories, I wanted to give kind of an overview of what we do, what we're all about, what our missions are, and sort of some of the best things that we do here on this channel, and encourage you also to subscribe to our free digital newsletter at utahstories.com. That's where we send you the voice of local Utah. It's a free email sent right to your inbox every single Tuesday, and that is how we deliver the voice of local Utah. But yeah, if you'll like, subscribe, and share this video as well, that is also a huge bonus. Sharing is caring, and that's the best way you can share. You can help us with the Utah Stories program and help us grow. So the thing that I was thinking about over the last week, I've been talking to business owners. We're doing what we call our big January ad sales blitz. We're going to all these businesses. We're talking to a lot of business owners. And I noticed that a big part of the problem of downtown Salt Lake City businesses is this labor shortage and just this inability to find good workers. And I know that there's this sentiment out there, and I've been talking to people about it, that work just sucks. Like, why work anymore? Why don't we just have robots do everything? Why don't we just like check out and do something else that's more fulfilling and satisfying than work? And I gotta say, I understand that sentiment if you're talking about some of the very worst jobs that our politicians absolutely promote and subsidize, such as working at an Amazon fulfillment center or a call center or a Walmart. I would never want to have one of those jobs where you're under fluorescent lighting and you're basically there to feed this giant corporate machine, and you're there to dispense products and pretend like you're happy while you're basically promoting crap made in Chinese sweatshops, and horrible working conditions all the way around. Like, that is the worst form of capitalism. And to say that there's no bad side to capitalism, there is. Of course there is. But what we've been about since the beginning of Utah Stories is promoting decentralization. I said if there's one word that describes what Utah Stories is and what we stand for, it really is decentralization of power. And that should be happening naturally. There should be a natural process in place, a meritocracy, which separates the wheat from the chaff, that allows these great businesses to pop up and do great things and flourish and do well, while old sacred cows fall into the pasture and they die. I mean, that should be the natural order of things. But what's happened in the last, I'd say, 50 to more intensely in the last 30 years, is businesses have become too big to fail. And what's happened as a result of that is the Federal Reserve and the government and other corporations, they all prop up each other, and they're preventing the natural cycle of things popping up and dying. And it's just not happening naturally anymore. And you see our free market is not so free anymore. And the level playing field that is supposed to be the free market, it is not so level anymore. And I don't believe that we need to then decide, oh, well, then let's just not work. Let's just forget about working, or just scrap capitalism. Capitalism's the problem. No, capitalism isn't the problem. Capitalism is the solution, but free market capitalism. We need to totally take off these tethers of regulation written by corporations to inhibit competition. I mean, that's really what all these regulations are for, and get these regulations and these chains off small businesses so they can be untethered, so that they can compete in a fair, level playing field, so that more people can enjoy more opportunity. And so I like to show this picture. This is a picture of downtown Salt Lake City way back in, I put circa 1949. I don't know exactly when it is, but if you look at it in the foreground, you see Penny's department store there. There were 12 jewelry shops, independently owned jewelry shops on Main Street at that time. There was place called Baker Shoes, Broadway Music, Auerbach's department store, Paris Company. There was those were local massive department stores, ZCMI Mall, Wolf Sporting Goods, Keith Warshaw, Hubbard Den, Cress. There was Warshaw's. And what essentially happened was we traded all this decentralization for centralized power on one street. We decided, all these great local businesses, all these independent restaurants and businesses, let's just forget about them as city leaders, and let's build these giant malls on the north end of Main Street, and let's subsidize these malls and give them free parking, give everybody who goes to the mall free parking, and forget these little piddly shops, these ma and pa shops, and the ma and pa shops that were on the south end of Main Street suffered from a beautification project which made the sidewalks wider. It screwed up the whole street. It screwed up the dynamics of the street. And then eventually a lot of the ma and pa shops went out of business and all of the mall stores flourished. And the mall stores were Nordstrom, JCPenney's, Weinstock's, Borders Books, McDonald's, Foot Locker, Burger King. You know them all. All the chain stores were given a big hand up, and all the local mom and pa shops were given a big pile of dirt in there right in front of their businesses when they were doing the sidewalk beautification in 1978. I looked into the history of this at the State Archives, and I spent about 4 months when I started Utah Stories. And you can check that story out. It's how Main Street was traded for Wall Street. And so the story is that America was always extremely decentralized. That's what gave us our incredible economy, our incredible local economies, the flourishment of main streets all over the United States. And then basically what happened was corporations started rewriting the laws and the rules and putting everything in their favor. And that story has not really been accurately told. And the way in which that the banking industry and the banking cartels created the Fed, which created this lending system for giant corporations that small businesses didn't have access to, I think that's another part of the story that hasn't been told. And so we want to tell the story of Main Street, not only in downtown Salt Lake City, but all over Utah. And that's a big initiative and push that we want to maintain and start here at Utah Stories. So I want to show you a couple of clips from work that we've started on this Main Street documentary we want to create. I'm going to start that now. So what do you like best about Salt Lake?
Best thing I like about Salt Lake is the sights. Being able to walk around town and seeing all these old ass buildings.
Like that,
feel unsafe here.
Yeah, I've never felt unsafe. Yeah, it's very safe.
I always walk around, I think, for an hour every night, and
Yes.
I never feel unsafe here.
Yes, no, never.
I'll say how clean the city is, and I enjoy the mountains a lot. The Wasatch Front.
There's always activities, something going on, I feel like, especially on the weekends. When I'm walking home on like late night Fridays, there's people at the bars.
I like the ease of getting around with like the public transport.
There's a library that I go to, and there's also like the mall, a game shop, and I just like how connected everything is.
I love it here. I love it here. A lot of friendly people here. A lot of things to do out here. Snowboarding, hiking, fishing, a lot of things. Yeah. It's really clean out here, so yeah.
And this is your first day in Salt Lake.
Yes.
What's your impression so far?
I love the weather and the mountains. The mountains, like, it's totally different from like Texas. So yeah, I definitely like the weather.
So what's the worst part about living in Salt Lake?
The worst part, I'll have to say the homeless. So when I first moved there, I was kind of shocked. I was like, whoa, there are a lot of homeless people, especially downtown. So I don't know if it's really safe.
The people that you'll see at night if you're around too late.
It's just kind of scary walking, like when it gets dark. I don't know. Sometimes I'm walking, I'm just scared I'm going to get mugged or something.
Crime rate. So the crime rate has been rising a lot.
Sometimes it can become like very packed of homeless.
I'm not very a religious person. I don't want to dog on the church, but I know like the church has a hand in a lot of things, and I feel like a lot of political things and stuff are influenced via church ideals, and I don't think that's the best route for progression and moving forward as don't know, a city and being inclusive and everything like that. I don't know, I'm just very individualism. If they're not messing with you, why mess with them?
The only thing that I don't like is the rules about alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Like, you walk around with that.
That's the only thing.
I'm not a big fan of organized religions, so I would say the Mormons.
The worst thing, my personal opinion, the people. There's a lot of very judgmental people here.
All right. So that is the beginning of us going out on the streets, getting people's opinions about the best and worst of downtown Salt Lake City. And we also want to go out to small business owners and get their stories about Main Street. I think by collecting this information and getting everyone's opinions and everybody's input, is we start to build what I think is like we start to show the social fabric of downtown and what it should really consist of. Because if I were not on a public street but in a mall, I first of all wouldn't be able to do what I just did. I've tried it before at City Creek Center and the Gateway. They immediately shut you down and they say, no, this is not permitted here. The free speech does not exist here. And so one of the best things about Main Street is that free speech actually exists, and you can speak your mind, you can talk, and you can tell a story. And so another thing that I did is I went and talked to a guy named Pete Marshall. Have an old window display, a feature that once provided most of the character for the shops in downtown around Christmas time. Today, that tradition has mostly disappeared.
I have people tell me I'm pretty much the only one on Main that decorates like for Christmas. I mean, in the 60s down here, the Paris, Auerbachs, Pennies, Woolworths, all of them did beautiful windows.
Yeah.
And they were cool. I mean, they had mechanicals moving in there, and it was good. It was neat at Christmas time. I mean, the Christmas tree they had in front of the Tribune up here, it looked like they just tore out the sidewalk and shoved the tree in there. That's about what it looked like,
Working in the antique business since age 8, Pete became acquainted with some of the most interesting neighborhoods in downtown Salt Lake City, including warehouses, brothels, and Chinatown, which we get into in a future episode.
Well, where Zion Bank sits used to be the old Sears and Roebuck warehouse, and my father rented that. The whole corner over here, maybe $25, $30 a month. And we stored a lot of antiques over there, and of course, when me and my two brothers got bored, my dad and grandfather said, well, take the BB guns across the street, shoot the rats. That's our battle. And there were rats bad down here.
Just all through the warehouse?
Yeah.
Shoot the rats.
And then back in the 70s.
I'm gonna leave it there, but the thing that I love about talking to people like Pete is you can't really understand, I don't believe, where you're going unless you know where you've come from. And I got really fascinated with the stories of downtown merchants, longtime downtown merchants, people who have witnessed the evolution of the streets, because they've clearly witnessed what's happened over the last 30, 40, 50 years. And Pete, he's seen it all. His whole family business has been downtown since he was 8 years old. He's been working in the sort of used goods business. And he does an amazing job telling the story of how downtown has changed and shaped over the years. Sorry, I got to pause 1 second. How people have evolved, and he does it by telling his stories. And I think that these stories need to be preserved and these stories need to be told. And I think if we don't keep and preserve these stories, that future generations might not understand the value of a main street that is owned by everybody, not owned by just some big corporation like we have in the malls, but that has this amazing tapestry of businesses, of ideas, of initiatives that small businesses move forward with, which represent their dreams, and it represents the evolution and the changes they want to see on the street. And it's something really special we have in America. And I feel like we're losing that. We're losing it in the way that I described in the beginning of the episode. Corporations are rewriting the laws. We're seeing an unleveled playing field. We're not seeing as many opportunities for the lower class to rise out of poverty by starting their own businesses. And so I want to create this documentary. I want to get the support of you, our readers, our listeners, our watchers. And I want to have the cities all over Utah also support this film. And it seems like it's starting to gain momentum. It looks like we might even have some financing in place. But it's not going to happen without your support as well. And the way you can support us right now, we'll have more mechanisms in place, is by reading Utah Stories magazine. This is our print magazine. This is our brand new issue. In the beginning of the magazine, we have... okay, so I want to flip through the issue and show you some of the great stories we've got in it. As I pointed out, we've got the story of the interviews with people on Main Street. That's the story of all these interviews of all these people on the street and what they had to say. We have students from West High School. We have these men who just moved here from Houston. These two girls who came as foreign interns, one from Holland and one from Mexico. You saw Blair already. But anyway, we put these stories all in print. And this is a story about a small business that moved off of Main Street because the homeless problem became so terribly bad. Like, in front of their business, they would find defecation every day, and finally they had to move. And it's an excellent story written by a new writer called Dell Leonard Jones. And this is about worker shortages and interviewing small businesses about that. Excellent story again. And why homeless people aren't choosing to work. I brought up the labor shortage in the beginning of the program. The reason why they're not working is because if you can choose to get all the government handouts and you can actually earn more money by staying on the streets as opposed to going and working at a place like Walmart or Amazon, why would you choose to go work at a place if you're getting more money from government handouts? And that really is the options that a lot of homeless people have right now. They're getting checks from the government. They can't afford housing. But even if they took that job at Walmart for $12 or $15 an hour, they still couldn't afford housing. So why take the jobs? So the result is we have hundreds and hundreds of unfilled positions at the bottom. We have all these businesses, local restaurants are suffering because they need dishwashers, they need cooks. Every single person I talk to who's in the restaurant business is suffering right now because of that, because there's no options available for people at the bottom. And the bottom rungs of the socioeconomic ladder have been just basically wiped out because our political leaders are not working for the people, they're working for corporations. And I've talked to realtors and I've asked, why is this happening? How is this happening? And we go back to during the pandemic, and we go back to the last housing bubble when it collapsed. What they've allowed giant corporations to do, like BlackRock, is come into the real estate market, buy up single-family homes, take a huge supply of the homes out of the supply, and then rent them out. And the supply of homes is extremely low now for first-time home buyers, and so people just don't have that option. That could change literally overnight if zoning laws were loosened. But political leaders are run by developers, and developers are run by other corporate interests, and they just simply don't want to do that. And so we find ourselves in a weird place here in the United States and in the media in 2023. You find more independent voices being silenced. You see that when the government doesn't like what you're saying, they're partnering with Twitter to call it disinformation. And I think it's now more important than ever to support especially local independent journalism. And that's what we want to produce here at Utah Stories. That's what we want to support. We've got awesome writers. We've got really great stories and investigations we want to do. Last year, we really dove deep into the homeless and housing situation, and you can watch all of that great content we produced last year. And to support us, again, you can subscribe to Utah Stories magazine. I'll show you how to do it right on the website. What you do is you scroll down or you hit the subscribe button, And in here, you fill out your information. And for the entire year, $3 a month, you can subscribe to our print magazine, and we send it right to your door. And this cannot be censored, folks. It's printed on paper, and it's words on a page. And Twitter and Google and Amazon and these giant tech companies, they cannot censor this information as long as we keep printing on paper. So I'd love to have you go out, pay $3 a month, help our initiative to support local journalism so that we can keep truth alive. Objective truth is our goal, providing a voice to the voiceless and representing the voice of local Utah. That's what we want to do. So thanks again for watching this show. I really appreciate it. Again, if you will hit that like button, share with a friend, that's the best thing to do, and subscribe to our channel and subscribe to the print magazine. That would be awesome. And if you can't afford to subscribe to print magazine, the next best thing you can do is subscribe to our free email newsletter. I'll show you that box. You can get the voice of local Utah delivered right to your inbox for free for now. We're actually going to be setting up a paywall on some of our content, but put your email address in there and it'll be free. And sign up, and you'll get it right to your inbox, and we'll never spam you. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.